Hello and welcome to my gaming channel. Today I'm going to be telling you the absolute basics of the 2xKO interface and how to play Jinx as a Juggernaut character. That's my personal favorite way to play as her, and even though I'm pretty new to the game, I thought I'd share a little bit of what I learned. So, without further ado, let's just explain what 2xKO is. It's a 2v2's Mortal Kombat style game. I recommend it if you're a fan of Arcane, since right now they're focusing on implementing League of Legends characters that are present in Arcane. The game as a whole, though, has characters from all across the Riot Games universe. Okay, first we're going to see the Battle Pass. Now, the Battle Pass is pretty self-explanatory and works just like any other game with a Battle Pass. It has plenty of things in it, like maps, taunts, skins for your characters, stickers, just the usual, or something like this. As you can see, I'm a level 34, and in my opinion, about the first 30 levels are the easiest ones to get. That's mostly just because, especially if you join a little bit later into the season, weekly quests, which I'll show you later, get you a lot of XP very quickly, and that helps for your original level ups. Playing matches, of course, give you XP as well, although losing only gives you 20 XP and winning gives you 40, at least as far as I could find on Google. So, right now I'm trying to get these shoes for level 35, and this is the different versions of the Battle Pass you can get. You have the Standard, Deluxe, and Ultra, and the Ultra gives you Arcane Caitlyn skin, so yeah, I'm currently saving up money for that. Here's the characters. Every character has a unique animation, and this is the same animation that plays when you choose the character. You can also see their other skins, as shown here, as well as taunts, and these again are unique for every single character. And then you have finishers. Now finishers, although very cool, are the same for all characters. As you can see, I only have the standard finisher for right now, because again, I'm still pretty new to the game. I'm just going to show off the last few finishers here. Or at least semi-show them off. Alright, you also have a move list for each character, basically just showing you the controls for all of their moves, including specials, supers, unique moves, assists, and your universals. And as you could probably guess, your universals are the same no matter what character you're playing as. If you go back to this screen, in the bottom left, you can see the character's strengths and weaknesses, and there's also a bio. Now, I'm just going to show off a couple character startups. On the next screen, you have your events, which have special quests attached to them, as you can see here. I finished most of mine, but there's still a bit of work to do, and I only have a little over a day and 2.5 days. So, yeah. You also see your first steps quests, which admittedly, I haven't done a whole lot of these, but they're pretty self-explanatory. After that, you have your weekly quests, like I was talking about earlier, and these are great for getting XP because each one gives you a full level. Your dailies, self-explanatory, and your featured are every 2 days. And again, they're just good for getting XP fast and leveling up easily. Then, come over here, you can see your main avatar. Now, this is just your little character that runs around in the lobby, and they can be customized any way you like. As you can see, I have Jinx's shoes, and they're new, so they have a sparkle effect on them. I'm going to equip them. And it's pretty much as easy as that. Pretty standard customization for really any game. Then there's expressions, which I won't focus on too much. And then there's cards and titles, which you earn from just going around doing your thing. And then there's stages, which are just the backdrops for your fights. They cost 7,500 each. Then there's the shop, which again is pretty self-explanatory. As you can see, you can also buy KO points from here, which can be used for some things throughout the game. And then you can look at the top 2 characters you've played the most, as well as how many mastery points and your last 3 matches. And your rank, but I never play ranked. And then you can see all your matches, or at least the last 50, and the top 6 on the leaderboard. Pretty simple. And settings, again, are what you'd expect. Now, you can also see the lobby, which, as you can see, I'm on fire, which means that I have a streak. Your streak starts at 2, although it turns red when you have a higher streak. I'm not sure when that is. My current streak is 4. And then you can even get blue fire if your streak is higher than that. Again, pretty simple streak markers. Nothing really out of the ordinary there. But the lobby, again, simple. You go to one of these consoles to play a game. As you can see, they're doing up there. And in the middle, there's a big screen where you can watch other people's matches. And they're just selecting their characters up there. So, sneak peek to the character selection screen, I suppose. But overall, not much. Before we get into Jinx as a Juggernaut, there are 2 more things I want to show off. First, if you go to a character you haven't unlocked yet, you can see that each one costs 10,000 of these little green points. And you can get those from just completing missions and playing matches. So yeah, you get most of them from your quests, like pretty much anything else. You can also use 10,000 of those other coins, but they cost actual money. That pretty much sums it up for the other characters, but for every single character, there is also a champion mastery screen. I'll show off Jinx's since she's the character we're talking about here. You can get special taunts, player titles, avatar items, and just some other things for your character. At complete mastery, you get a skin, as you can see here. On the left are your missions to get to your next mastery, and at the top it tells you how many masteries you have and how many came from this season alone. Now, ignore my cat, I'm going to briefly show off Jinx, and then we can get into the specifics of playing her as a Juggernaut character. In my opinion, she's just a really fun and unique character to play as a Juggernaut, and she's my favorite arcane character. So, I spent a little bit of extra time trying to learn how to play as her. And although I'm still pretty new to the game and certainly don't know everything, I thought it would be fun to teach other people who love Jinx how to play her character, at least to the best of my abilities. Without further ado, let's get into it. So you can see, I'm setting up Jinx, and I used Alawi as my other character for mission purposes, but I picked the Juggernaut power-up so that Jinx will be my only character with a double health. I'm going up against Braun and Yasuo. Alright, now after stage select, we get into an actual game, and that's where the party starts. Jinx has 4 central weapons: Fishbones, Zapper, a big hammer, and Pow Pow. Pow Pow is a minigun, Fishbones is a gigantic rocket launcher, the huge hammer is pretty self-explanatory, and Zapper's a little electricity gun. If you've seen Arcane, you know what 3 of those weapons are, apart from the hammer, which again is pretty self-explanatory.
Ah, a new partner! You're not a psycho, are you?
Let's go!
I'll start by explaining Fishbones. Fishbones is a long-range weapon dealing a pretty nice amount of damage and shooting one bullet at a time. There is a short reload between each time. Pow Pow is another long-range weapon, although it shoots many bullets with small amounts of damage each, and it can be aimed upward to keep a character in the air and deal more damage. It's just really fun to use, and I recommend using it a lot, because I know I definitely do, and it keeps characters far away from you. As you can see, I tend to keep as much space as possible between me and my opponent. Of course, they will get close sometimes, and you have to play a more aggressive Jinx, although I tend to play a more defensive Jinx when I can because she doesn't have the best health. Zapper does decent damage and also has an additional stun effect that can be very helpful, especially if you're trying to pull off a combo. I did not do that here because I wanted to keep space between me and my opponent, but it's definitely an option, especially if you're playing more aggressively.
Perfection! Ready! Let's go!
You wouldn't usually think about it, but Jinx is great when it comes to chip damage, especially with Pow Pow, because she can do a ton of hits of damage, even though they won't do as much when someone's blocking.
To the wind.
Jinx's ultimate, just like any other ultimate, uses 3 super points, but it pays off with a huge damage toll very quickly. It also has an awesome animation. It can be easy to accidentally hit other buttons and use your supers, although if you get it working, it's really cool to see.
Hear the trumpets of victory blast! Jinx wins!
After you've used your ultimate ability, it's usually best to just use your supers, because the likelihood of you getting an ultimate a second time and managing to land it are pretty low. Also, playing Jinx is especially interesting because you kind of have to change your strategy in the middle of a game, and make sure that they can't see what's coming next, just like Jinx's chaotic nature. Ironically, my opponent gave me the chance to talk about this. The flying monkey bomb is pretty self-explanatory. It slowly flies towards your opponent, and when it gets close, it explodes, dealing some decent damage, especially if you're hit head-on. The Fishbone Super comes with a fun animation and causes fireworks that go diagonally up and cause damage for each explosion. Fishbones has an alternative attack where he can be faced downwards. This allows you to get further away from your opponent and still do regular Fishbones damage. It's extremely helpful, especially if you want to get away from someone doing a top combo. When Chomper is thrown, it latches onto an opponent to explode and do damage. It will jump around on the floor for a little bit, and Jinx can hit it with her weapons to move it closer to her opponent. It's very, very helpful and very, very fun to watch. As you can see, it also moves your opponent back.
Let's do that again later.
Again, my opponent gave me a prime opportunity to show this off. Jinx's big hammer is her typical close range X, Y, and B attack, at least if you're using Xbox, which is what I personally play 2xKO on. Jinx has a lot of explosive potential, literally, but she's also surprisingly strategic due to her focus on long-range attacks and the threat of her health depleting too quickly if your opponent gets close.
Hear the trumpets of victory blast! Jinx wins!
I've gotten most wins with Jinx as a Juggernaut than I've gotten with any two characters paired together. Her animations are awesome, her lines are great, and she's just overall really fun to play as.
Shoot him if you got him.
This ability has an awesome animation and does a lot of damage fast. Jinx also has an ability I couldn't find footage of, especially since I was fighting a Juggernaut this time around, where she uses her big hammer ability as a super and forces her opponent to switch characters.